They changed the rules and didn't tell anyone. Starting January 2026, TSA agents are confiscating items that were perfectly legal last month. A woman in Atlanta lost a $400 cosmetics bag because of a regulation that went into effect on New Year's Day. Security lines are backing up for hours because travelers don't know what's banned. And the strangest part? 3 items you've carried for years are now prohibited, but TSA won't explain why. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact new rules that are catching travelers off guard at security checkpoints nationwide. You'll discover why your laptop case might now be illegal even though it passed inspection last year. And the final rule change. It affects 90% of carry-on bags, and if you don't know about it, you'll be repacking at the checkpoint while a line of angry passengers watches. Stay till the end, because what TSA just banned in rule number 3 will shock you. It's something you probably have in your bag right now. Rule 5. The liquid rule finally changed. This is the big one everyone's been waiting for, but it didn't change the way people hoped. The 3-1-1 liquid rule. 3.4 ounces per container, 1 quart-sized bag, 1 bag per passenger, was supposed to be eliminated with new CT scanners. Didn't happen. Instead, they made it more complicated. Here's the new reality. Airports with CT scanners, about 40% of major US airports, now allow liquids up to 12 ounces per container. But you still need to bag them, and the total volume limit is now strictly enforced. You can bring 4 12-ounce containers instead of multiple 3-ounce bottles, but the total can't exceed 48 ounces of liquid combined, and TSA is actually measuring now. The problem is that most travelers don't know which airports have CT scanners. You think you're fine with your 8-ounce shampoo because you flew through Denver last month without issue. Then you connect through a regional airport that doesn't have CT scanners, and your shampoo gets confiscated. There's no consistency, and TSA isn't clearly marking which checkpoints use which rules. But here's where it gets absurd. The CT scanner rules only apply to the security checkpoint that has the scanners. If you clear security at a CT-equipped airport, you're legal. But if you have a connecting flight and that airport doesn't have CT scanners, you're supposed to comply with the old rules for the connection. Except nobody's enforcing this because it's impossible to track. The result is chaos. What nobody saw coming is how this affects duty-free shopping. You buy a bottle of wine or spirits after security, thinking it's legal because you're past the checkpoint. But if your connection involves changing terminals or going through security again, that full-size bottle is now illegal. Airlines are seeing a spike in confiscated duty-free items at connection points. Thousands of dollars worth of alcohol seized daily because travelers didn't understand the multi-checkpoint issue. And here's the medication exception that's getting stricter. Medically necessary liquids were always exempt from the 3-1-1 rule. That hasn't changed, but the documentation requirements have. TSA now wants to see prescription labels, doctor's notes, or original packaging. If you transferred your prescription liquid into a travel bottle without proper labeling, they're confiscating it. The exemption exists, but proving eligibility is harder than before. The practical advice for 2026. Assume the old 3-1-1 rule applies everywhere. If a particular checkpoint allows more, great. But don't plan your packing around exceptions that might not apply to your entire journey. And if you're buying duty-free liquids, make absolutely certain your itinerary doesn't involve additional security screening. 1 checkpoint means you're fine. 2 or more means you're risking confiscation. Rule 4. Personal item size enforcement. Airlines have always had personal item size limits, but 2026 brings automated enforcement that's catching travelers completely off guard. Multiple carriers have installed bag sizing stations at gates, and if your personal item doesn't fit, you're paying to check it. The standard personal item size hasn't changed. It's still roughly 18 by 14 by 8 inches for most airlines. What changed is the enforcement. Previously, gate agents eyeballed your bag. If it looked reasonable, you boarded. Now there are metal frames at every gate. If your bag doesn't fit through the frame without forcing it, you're getting charged. Here's where travelers are getting burned. Women's purses and tote bags that were always accepted are now being measured. A large tote bag might be 19 inches tall, 1 inch over. That's now a $50 gate fee because it exceeds personal item dimensions. The bag that's been your travel staple for 5 years is suddenly non-compliant because enforcement got stricter. But what nobody anticipated is how this affects laptop bags and backpacks. A laptop bag designed for a 17-inch laptop is almost certainly oversized for personal item dimensions. But travelers have been bringing these for years without issue. 6. Airlines are measuring, and oversized laptop bags are getting flagged. You're being forced to consolidate into your carry-on or pay to check the laptop bag separately. And here's the cynical reality. This is a revenue generator. Airlines lose money when passengers bring maximum luggage without paying fees. By strictly enforcing personal item size, they're creating fee opportunities that didn't exist before. Your behavior hasn't changed, but their measurement has, and that measurement generates charges. The backpack issue is particularly frustrating. A standard school or hiking backpack is usually about 20 inches tall, technically oversized, but when empty or lightly packed, it compresses to fit the sizing frame. When full, it doesn't. Gate agents are asking passengers to prove their personal item fits by placing it in the frame. If it's too full to compress into compliance, you're checking it. What's working for savvy travelers? Packable bags. Bring a bag that can compress or fold down when needed. If your personal item is questioned, you can remove non-essential items, collapse the bag, fit it through the sizing frame, then repack once you're on board. It's annoying, but it avoids fees. Hard-sided personal items like cosmetics cases or small coolers. Those can't compress. If they're even slightly oversized, you're paying. Rule 3. Food restrictions. Tightened. This one blindsided everyone. TSA has implemented new restrictions on food items in carry-on luggage, and the rules are stricter and more confusing than the liquid regulations. If you pack snacks or meals for your flight, you need to understand what's now prohibited. The basic rule: solid food is allowed, liquid or gel food is subject to the 3-1-1 rule. Simple, right? Except TSA's definition of liquid or gel is now absurdly broad. Peanut butter? Liquid. Hummus? Liquid. Yogurt? Obviously liquid. But here's where it gets ridiculous. Soft cheese is now considered a liquid. Creamy soup? Liquid. Chocolate spread? Liquid. If TSA thinks it can be spread or poured, it's restricted. What's catching travelers off guard is fresh fruit. Whole apples and oranges? Fine. But cut fruit in containers with juice? That's now questionable. If there's liquid pooling in the container, TSA considers it a liquid item subject to size restrictions. Travelers are having fruit salad confiscated because the fruit released juice during transport. But here's the enforcement inconsistency that's causing chaos. One TSA agent considers cream cheese a spread, therefore a liquid. Another agent at a different airport waves it through as solid cheese. There's no standardized training on food classification. The result is arbitrary enforcement that depends entirely on which agent screens your bag. Something allowed in Denver might be confiscated in Dallas. And the international angle is getting weird. If you're traveling internationally, absolutely no fresh food is allowed through customs, even if TSA lets you bring it on the plane. Travelers are clearing TSA with apples, landing internationally, then getting fined by customs for agricultural violations. The apple TSA approved cost you a $300 customs penalty because it's technically importing foreign agriculture. What nobody expected is how this affects baby food. Parents traveling with infants have always been allowed to bring food and formula in quantities exceeding 3-1-1 limits. That exemption still exists, but TSA now requires that you declare it separately and allow additional screening. The baby food goes through explosive residue testing, which takes 5 to 10 minutes. Parents with connecting flights are missing connections because baby food screening took too long. Here's the practical reality for 2026. If you can buy it after security, do that instead of bringing it through. Anything spreadable, anything potentially messy, anything that could be interpreted as liquid. Leave it home or buy it at an airport shop past security. The inconsistent enforcement isn't worth the risk of confiscation or delays. Rule 2. Electronic screening intensified. This change is subtle but significant. TSA has updated screening procedures for electronic devices, and if you travel with multiple electronics, you need to understand the new requirements or you'll cause significant delays. The old rule was laptops larger than a tablet must be removed from your bag. That's still true, but the definition of tablet has changed. TSA now considers anything over a 10-inch screen to be a laptop requiring removal. Your 11-inch iPad Pro, that needs to come out. Your 12-inch Microsoft Surface definitely comes out. Travelers accustomed to leaving tablets in their bags are getting stopped and rescreened. But here's the new requirement that's catching everyone. If you have more than 3 electronic devices in your carry-on, they all need to come out and be placed in separate bins. Laptop, tablet, e-reader, camera, and a portable gaming console. That's 5 devices. You need multiple bins. And you need to arrange them so they're not stacked. 1 device per bin, spread out for scanning. What nobody anticipated is how this affects charging cables and accessories. If your bag has a tangled mess of cables, the X-ray can't differentiate between cables and prohibited items. TSA is flagging bags with excessive cables for hand searches. You're standing at security while an agent unpacks your entire electronics bag because the cable bundle looked suspicious on X-ray. And here's the detail, causing secondary screenings. External hard drives and SSDs now get extra scrutiny. They're dense on X-ray imaging, and the new scanners flag dense objects as potential threats. If you travel with portable storage devices, expect them to be pulled out and swabbed for explosive residue. Each device adds 30 seconds to 2 minutes to your screening time. The enforcement is particularly strict at international departure gates. If you're leaving the US, TSA has implemented enhanced electronic screening. They're powering on devices to ensure they're functional, not hollowed-out shells hiding contraband. If your device is dead and won't power on, you're not bringing it on the plane. You'll have to check it or leave it behind. What's working for frequent travelers? A dedicated electronics organizer with individual pouches for each device and cable management. It looks professional on X-ray, speeds up screening, and reduces the likelihood of secondary searches. The tangled mess of devices and cables in a backpack, that's guaranteed extra screening time in 2026. Rule 1. The carry-on size crackdown. This is the change affecting the most passengers, and it's causing gate delays and passenger rage across the country. Airlines have coordinated a simultaneous crackdown on carry-on bag size, and the enforcement is stricter than it's been in 20 years. The standard carry-on size is 22 by 14 by 9 inches for most airlines. That's not new. What's new is that airlines installed bag sizing stations at every gate, and gate agents are measuring bags. If your bag is even slightly oversized, 23 inches instead of 22, you're being forced to check it at the gate for a fee. Here's what's enraging passengers. The measurements include wheels and handles. That wasn't enforced before. Your bag might be 22 inches of actual storage, but the wheels add an inch, and the handle hardware adds another ½ inch. Total dimension, 23.5 inches. Oversized. You're checking it and paying $50 because of components that don't affect storage capacity. But what nobody saw coming is how this affects soft-sided bags. A soft-sided roller bag might compress to fit the sizing frame when empty. Gate agents are now asking passengers to place their bags in the frame while packed. A full soft-sided bag doesn't compress as much. What fit when you packed it at home doesn't fit when the agent measures it at the gate. You're suddenly oversized because the bag is full. And here's the timing trap that's catching passengers. They're not checking sizes at the ticket counter anymore. They're checking at the gate after you've gone through security. By the time you discover your bag is non-compliant, you can't repack or adjust. You're either checking it for a fee or missing your flight to go back and consolidate luggage. The late-stage enforcement gives you no options. The inconsistency is maddening. You fly from New York to Chicago, no problem. Return trip from Chicago to New York, suddenly your bag is oversized. Same bag, different gate agent, different enforcement. The bag hasn't changed. The rules haven't changed. But the measurement rigor has, and it varies by airport, airline, and even individual gate agent. What's particularly cynical is that airlines profit from this. They deliberately undersell overhead bin space, knowing that gate-checking bags generates fee revenue. By strictly enforcing carry-on size, they create a scarcity of overhead space, which pressures passengers to check bags. It's a manufactured problem that generates hundreds of millions in annual fees. But here's the detail that reveals the real agenda. They're not checking bag size at the ticket counter, where you could check your bag for the standard fee, usually $35. They're checking at the gate, where the fee is $50. That $15 premium applies to millions of bags per year. This isn't about safety or bin space. It's a revenue strategy disguised as policy enforcement. The practical solution? Buy a carry-on bag that's intentionally undersized. Instead of a bag that maxes out at 22 inches, buy one that's 20 inches. You lose some packing space, but you'll never be questioned at the gate. And invest in packing cubes to maximize the space you have. Compression is key. The more you can compress your contents, the more you can carry in a legitimately sized bag. But here's what connects all these rule changes. The pattern that TSA and airlines don't want you to recognize. Every single change, from battery restrictions to bag sizing, generates revenue or reduces operational costs. None of these changes improve security in measurable ways. The technology exists to screen liquids of any size, we just don't deploy it. Bag size enforcement doesn't affect safety. It affects airline revenue. These aren't security measures. They're business decisions disguised as safety protocols. And the most frustrating part? The rules will keep changing because every change creates opportunities to charge passengers for non-compliance. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. 7 new carry-on rules for 2020. 6 that nobody warned you about. Print this list. Save this video. Share it with everyone you know who travels because the airports aren't advertising these changes, and the first time you learn about them shouldn't be when you're standing at the checkpoint watching your items get confiscated. The rules changed. Your behavior needs to change with them. Hit that like button if this saved you from a disaster at security. Subscribe for more travel hacks that actually help you navigate the chaos of modern air travel. And drop a comment telling me which rule change frustrates you most, because collective frustration is the only thing that ever forces airlines and TSA to reconsider passenger-hostile policies. Travel smart in 2026. The system is designed to trip you up, but now you know the traps. You know the traps. You know the traps.